It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something to play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Hello there. Good morning. It is Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're set to talk Michigan sports and adjacent for the next hour. We're really going to spend a lot of time here very soon talking about March Madness. We've got our brackets in. They're already busted, but we're going to enjoy talking about the national side of that here in just a little bit. Then we'll hone in on Michigan and Michigan State, see what we think about their prospects now that we know exactly what the path through, I guess I should say, the NCAA tournament will look like. We'll get into that. We'll also discuss the Pistons a little bit as to what they need to do. They're pretty much locked into the playoffs now with less than a month to go until the NBA postseason gets started. We'll discuss that. We'll also make our picks exclusively out of the NCAA tournament this week as well. We'll get into it. DJ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. My bracket ain't really all that busted. I've only lost 2 games on day one, so I am actually at a 98.8% win percentage and in the top 311,000. So I think I'm doing pretty good so far. Hoping that stays true through this second day, and I can maybe just brag a lot. And got my first lacrosse game Wednesday, so vibes are on an all-time high.
Okay, well, good luck on the season ahead. And I'm right there with you. I mean, I've only got 3 losses. Now, you've been dogging me in the entire time that we've been prepping for the show about what games I chose.
Yes.
Now, granted, one of the games I missed was the one that a lot of people missed, but not you, apparently. And that was McNeese taking out Clemson. But I also missed Arkansas versus Kansas. And that was a touch more egregious because I had Kansas going to the Sweet 16.
Crazy.
But I think the worst one, and the one that you might want to start with, I don't know, is that I was going to have UC San Diego beat Michigan as my, hey, a 12's got to beat a 5 somewhere pick. And that was the one I was going to go with. Michigan peaked by winning the Big Ten championship, and they were going to come in with a big head, and they weren't going to be disciplined, and they were going to turn the ball over, and it's why they were going to lose to a mid-major team. It's not how it went. But that's what my thought process was, and that's why I got it wrong.
Listen, I'm going to start with the first game that you brought up. That actually would have kept you from picking Michigan to lose. If you would have chosen McNeese over Clemson, you would have been like, well, I did pick that 12-5 over there. Maybe Michigan can pull this out. And you would be in good shape. Because McNeese has Amir Khan, the best manager in basketball right now. Their aura is through the roof, and it's showing on the floor. Clemson also plays in the ACC, which was horrible this year.
Yeah.
So that didn't help them really. You were good. You were 26-2 or whatever you were during the year. But in the terrible ACC, that means nothing. And they lost. And then subsequently, because you didn't pick McNeese, you picked UC San Diego, which they lost as well, by the way. It went exactly how you thought it would go. Michigan got out to a lead, and then all of a sudden they started turning the ball over like crazy, and UC San Diego was right back into the game. But then Trey Donaldson from deep knocks one down. If you happen to have found any of my socials, then you have probably seen the video of me reacting to that live time. It was fun. They won. They moved on. But like you said, yes, the most egregious pick you have is Kansas going to the Sweet 16.
Well, you got to have one team that you don't really expect to go to the Sweet 16 to go. And I agree. Hey, my biggest guesses are the ones that have messed me up so far, right? Because if I stay off the UC San Diego thing and go with the more likely option in Clemson, then I look like a genius who just so happened to pick Kansas to do something a little bit shocking. But no, I agree. Kansas over Arkansas and then Kansas over St. John's does look a little bit silly now that there's 2 red lines across my bracket here, but nonetheless, I stand by the decision. When we make our picks at the end of the show, I'm strictly going to pick the games that I picked, within a 15-minute window when I filled out my bracket early in the week. I'm going to stand by it, just as I'm standing by the mistakes that I've made so far. What were the 2 that you got wrong?
The 2 that I got wrong were I picked Louisville over Creighton, even though the entire time I was telling myself Creighton was going to beat Louisville, and I still just picked Louisville to win. And then I picked Georgia over Gonzaga for whatever reason. I blame it on the SEC bias that I leaned into since they got 14 teams into the tournament. I was like, oh yeah, they must be half decent then.
Yeah, but when the teams at the bottom of that barrel are still in, I mean,
I was like, they got to be at least half decent then, right? And no.
I would trust the SEC teams that actually beat the elite SEC teams. Georgia didn't do that.
Well, the elite ones beat each other. They didn't lose to anybody on the low end.
Exactly. But you got Florida, Alabama, and Auburn.
When 14 teams
nobody else matters.
When 14 teams from one conference get in, you wouldn't think that they were that bad.
True.
They were that bad.
They were that bad.
But I don't mind. It's 8-9. 8-9 is such a hard matchup to pick, and it's almost not an upset when a 9 beats an 8. So
exactly.
You kind of literally throw a dart in the dark, and whatever it hits is what you go with.
And odds are the 1 seed's going to save you anyway, because you're going to pick the 1 seed to make it. And more often than not, you're going to be fine missing that 8 or 9 as long as you don't miss too many of them.
But what I will say is, I'm kind of scared for the 2 1 seeds, 2 of them. Auburn playing Creighton, especially after the way they played yesterday in the first half against Alabama State. And then Houston versus Gonzaga. We know that Gonzaga is just a team that can make a run in the tournament and not win a championship.
Right.
But definitely make a run.
There are limits to what they could do. All right. I'm going to ask you a question because I did the one thing that I've never done before. And I don't feel great about it, but I think these are some of the strongest 1 seeds I've ever seen. Now, that might be an exaggeration. I'm not the biggest basketball guy in the world. I just find it very hard for any of these 1 seeds to lose. I don't think the brackets are set up against them. So all of my final 4 are the 1 seeds. Is that the case for you? And if it's not, who's the dark horse in your bracket? Who's going the furthest with the lowest seed?
St. John's is a 2. I have Houston, Duke, Auburn, and St. John's. And I have Auburn, Duke in the championship. I have Duke as a winner. My tiebreaker, I put total score 146.
Other than, so you said Auburn, Duke, Houston, and St. John's.
Yes.
So other than St. John's, our final 4 is exactly the same. I chose Florida. I also had St. John's losing to Kansas, so I didn't have them going to the Sweet 16, which is silly on my part, I know, but weird things happen, and we're talking about an elite mid-major program, and a lot of weird things happen with them. I had Texas Tech ending up in the Elite 8 against Florida. Florida's still beating Texas Tech. Florida's really good. They're really hard. That's what I'm saying. They're really hard to deny right now because they ended the season on such a hot streak, and then they look good in the SEC tournament as well. But I also have Duke over Auburn. There's just no way I could pick the Booger Eaters from East Georgia to win the national championship, though I think Auburn really does have a very solid chance. I mean, they're a lot of people's pick to win the national championship, if not Duke.
No, they're the third.
Are they the third
champion?
So who's the next highest? Houston?
Florida at 20. So the breaks here are 25% for Duke, 21.3% for Florida, 10.6% for Auburn. And then I believe it's pretty much a selection of teams in the field for the rest of the percentage.
Well, I mean, look at Florida, though. I mean, they're at the end of the season. They got wins over Auburn, Alabama, and Tennessee. They're mightily impressive coming out of that.
Courtney Cronin is 100% still with 160 points, ranking number 1 in the entire world right now.
Must be nice.
She picked Florida. She picked Florida to win her bracket.
My tiebreaker, though, in case you were curious, between Auburn and Duke, total number of points in the championship game. Same number I pick every year, DJ. 169.
Nice.
I'm sure you'd appreciate that. All right. So take me through some other portions of your bracket. Are there any games that are standing out to you or any teams that are standing out to you that people should definitely make sure that they tune in for during March Madness?
Drake has been playing some really good ball. I'm actually really sad that Omaha lost. I was really excited to watch them, just people's elbow off the highest chair in the room onto a garbage can. That was good stuff. Obviously, McNeese is a team to look at. Kentucky, low-key, has some words to say as a 3 seed.
Yeah.
BYU, Wisconsin is going to be a great game later on. Obviously, we're looking for Duke. Arizona has a nice path as a 4 seed to possibly make it to the Sweet 16, Elite 8 if they're able to beat Duke. North Carolina could be scary if they make it past Ole Miss. I don't believe they will. But if they are able to use that momentum they got from that first 4 game and roll past Ole Miss, they could be someone to keep an eye on. Obviously, a team we'll talk about later in Michigan State as well.
I look around, one of the few lower seeds that I had going pretty far, and I say lower because I just mean outside of, the top 4 seeds. I have Illinois reaching the Sweet 16, and that means they're getting past Xavier and Kentucky, and neither of those are particularly easy matchups. But I think a little bit of Big Ten supremacy, that's a space where it makes sense. And if that lines up with a Tennessee matchup, that could be a very interesting game with 2 big squads. And I also think you got to watch out for Maryland. Maryland's biggest issue is that they are in a collision course with Florida in the Sweet 16. But I went back and forth. I almost had Maryland in my Final 4 just so I wouldn't have 4 1 seeds, but I just couldn't look past what Florida did towards the end of the season against elite programs. But Maryland looked really, really strong down the stretch as well. Conversely, who's a top seed? Who's a 1, 2, or 3, 4 that you don't believe in? We'll talk about that next on Mitten Madness. 95.3 WBCK. Back here on Mitten Madness 95.3 WBCK, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're talking March Madness, a little inspiration for the name of the show. And discussing more of the national scene. We'll hone in on Michigan and Michigan State here in just a little bit. But before we went to break, I had the question pop up and present it to you, DJ. What's a higher seed team that you're maybe not buying into? A 1, 2, 3, maybe a 4 seed if you really have to go digging for a team that you just don't believe in. They're not Elite 8 bound. They'll struggle to get to the Sweet 16. However you want to quantify it. A team that you do not believe in this March.
Tennessee, Purdue, Alabama.
All right, I understand Tennessee and Purdue, but
yeah.
You can't just say Bama and not ask me, not expect me to follow up on that. I know Alabama's had some disappointing points throughout this season, so
yes. The more disappointing point is the one I'm about to turn to, so I can see it in front of my own eyes. They're playing as we record this on Friday.
They are.
It is 70-66 against 15-seeded Robert Morris.
Yeah.
And you got to go play St. Mary's or Vanderbilt. And if you win that game, you have to play the winner of BYU, Wisconsin. You got a little bit of a tough road in front of you.
Yeah.
And even if you win that game miraculously, you're playing one of Duke, Arizona, Oregon, Baylor. Your best hope is Liberty or Akron shocks the world.
Right. You're going to play Duke and you're going to like it.
Hello.
Let's be honest.
Hello. That's not saying that they can't bounce back and make a run, but they're the higher seed, one of the higher seeds that I feel a little weary about.
Yeah.
Iowa State, they're a 3 seed that's going nowhere. They ain't beating State, and if they beat State, they ain't beating Auburn. Hello.
Let's not talk about how far Iowa State made it in my bracket.
Florida and Maryland this is the best bracket. I think this one will go chalk. I think it's going to be Florida, Maryland, Texas Tech, St. John's.
Yeah.
In that Sweet 16. I think St. John's and Florida win, but
any of those 4 teams could really come out.
Texas Tech, Maryland being in a different region could mean something different for them.
Oh yeah.
But they're just stuck in the region they're in. You can say the same thing about Michigan. If they're not a 5 seed and they're a 3 seed and they're playing a different region, Michigan could make a run. Or even if they were a 5 seed in a different region, they could possibly make a run, but they have to play through both Michigan State and Auburn if they wanted to make it to the Final Four.
There's a lot of teams that if you just put them in the Midwest region, they're coming out of that region.
Probably.
The Final Four. Like, especially Maryland and Texas. Like, those are the main two. They would come out of there
back
easy.
To Purdue and Tennessee. You're in the Midwest region, and you're not going to do anything.
That's
but
terrifying.
Lose to Houston.
Like, that's awful.
You're not going to do anything but lose to Houston.
I mean, Houston's great. Like, it's not a downtrodden on Houston
at all.
But like, if you get to the Elite Eight and you didn't have to do anything except wait to play Houston, basically, it's not a super strong region.
For Purdue. It's Sweet 16. You kind of got a nice run. Because McNeese was going to beat Clemson, and even if they didn't, that was probably better for you. You probably would have wanted to play Clemson because of how bad they were. So you have a nice road to the Sweet 16. If you somehow pull off a Houston upset, then I'm going to shut my words and you do your thing, Purdue. But I doubt that's going to happen, which also leads me to talk about Kentucky. I don't know that Kentucky is really a solid 3 seed.
They're a big question mark.
A huge question mark. I don't even know if they're going to beat Tennessee. And if they do beat Tennessee, are they better than Purdue or Houston? Probably not.
That does remind me, because I'm in the staff bracket for our company, and
I just missed out on that.
Yeah, somebody did pick Troy to win the national championship, so they had zero faith in Kentucky.
Right.
For what it's worth.
I mean, they just have. I wouldn't say zero faith in Kentucky. I think they have immense faith in Troy.
Right, the Troy Trojans, who I don't think have ever won an NCAA tournament game before.
They might have won one or
maybe
two,
one,
but like
they're giant killers in football. Not every other sport.
But like they've been around. They have been around, and March Madness has been around for so long that like there's a chance they were good in like 73 and won a game or two, which in
the couple of years that I was there, they were always said, "Oh, we've never done anything in the tournament." So I could be wrong, but I'm not aware of any success.
Also, you know, like it's like poverty franchises trying to claim championships when it was World War II. Like it. Dude,
that felt targeted.
Dude, there were 5 teams that were playing back then.
That felt targeted.
I mean, Michigan is in that group in a lot of things. Like, you know what I'm saying?
We're not acknowledging.
No. Like, there's a lot
just
of
Alabama.
I mean, if we want to look at the Red Wings, like
they do it too.
All of their championships are during wartime.
Yeah. Listen, I'm an Alabama fan, and we have enough national championships for me to finally say this opinion out loud, because it's majorly a college football thing. Claim championships shouldn't be a thing.
Oh yeah.
Like once we got to the point where we were playing for championships, all those should just be ignored. But a lot of people don't like that because then it takes away all of their championships. And to that I say, get good, scrub.
Get better.
A team that has won plenty of championships is the Michigan State Spartans. They're set up as a 2 seed in Auburn's South bracket. It seems like a destined collision course between Auburn and Michigan State. If we get that Elite Eight matchup, what does Michigan State have to do in the lead up to that to prepare for a team like Auburn to punch their ticket to the Final Four?
You don't get a chance to prepare. That's the tough thing about.
Well, I don't mean prepare
tournament.
for Auburn specifically. I just mean to improve upon themselves.
I don't even think you vote. I think you just play. Like I think that's the thing about
just blinders on and go.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the difference for March Madness. Like teams that are good in March Madness and teams who aren't are the ones that are able to go into the game and look at just what's happening in front of them.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not worried about who we play in 2 days. We're not worried about what we did the other day. We're worried about what is happening in these 40 minutes on the floor right now.
Yeah.
And then we're going to shut that down and we're going to focus on the next 40 minutes that we have coming up on the floor. Like, and Michigan State has always been that kind of team where once that last game's over, it doesn't matter. The game in front of them does, and they don't care who wins the other games.
Yeah.
They'll turn their focus to that when their game is over. So I think they just have to continue to be that kind of team where they're just blinders on, focused on the task directly in front of them, and then navigating afterward once they know what it is they're going to be doing.
So DJ's suggestion is to play nameless gray faces in an empty stadium.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nothing else matters. Trust your technique, trust your instinct, and trust your skill, your God-given ability to be really insanely good at this sport, and let that carry you as far as it's going. Because if you overthink anything in this, you're just going to be like every one of us that missed their bracket. Yep. Except you're busted your own.
Yeah. You don't get multiple chances to get points in your bracket challenge.
Exactly.
You're going home. So yeah, it's just one of those things that comes down to being able to just stay focused. And then once they do know that they're going to be playing Auburn, I think there's some post defensive things that they can do as far as like doubling Janai Broome and things like that to force the Auburn offense to do some uncomfortable things.
Well, I know you don't fear Iowa State. I don't know how you feel about Marquette. This is where we're going to really, really get to laugh at my bracket later, is because I have North Carolina and Iowa State coming out of there instead of Ole Miss. Ole Miss is probably likely to be on Michigan State's radar as well. But out of those teams, I mean, the potential opponents for Michigan State once they get out of the round of 64, is there anybody that kind of draws some concern, like they're a good matchup against the Spartans, such as an Ole Miss, a Marquette, or one of those teams?
Ole Miss or Iowa State. I think obviously those are going to be the concern. What I think the biggest thing Michigan State doesn't want, and like the team isn't going to tell you this, but the fans probably would. They don't want to see Michigan a third time. They don't want to play Michigan again.
I agree with that.
They don't.
I don't think they're going to.
They would rather play Auburn than to play Michigan again. They'd rather play Texas A&M than to play Michigan again. Like, they want to see Michigan lose, not just because they're Michigan, but because they don't want to play them.
Well, it adds emotion to the game.
I say not because they're scared, but because it adds a layer to the game, and like that's just not what you want playing in the NCAA tournament. Like, you want to be as far away from your rival as you can get, actually.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing you want to do is play your rival in the NCAA tournament. So I think stay away from Michigan, and they have a pretty good chance to run against anyone.
Yeah, I mean, ask Kentucky, who's potentially staring down a matchup with Tennessee. They don't want any part of that. Conversely, Michigan does want to play Michigan State because it means that they've made it past the round of 32 and into the Sweet 16 and beyond, of course. That said, very tough road ahead for them. They've got A&M next, considering both have already won their games. And the winner of that is most likely going to take on Auburn. So, yeah, good luck, Wolverines. This is not going to be easy. But, hey, it's the situation that they put themselves in. I think their talent is higher than a 5 seed, but their production and the way that they close down the season definitely fits a 5 seed. What's got to change? I mean, I feel like we've talked about the turnovers for about 8 weeks straight.
That's it.
How do you control the turnovers in this?
I told you don't. I told you this team is just going to go in and turn the ball over, and we just pray they can make enough shots that it doesn't matter. And that's what happened.
You can't do that against.
That's what happened when they played UC San Diego. I don't know what I'm going to do when they play Texas A&M, but that's what it is. Is you have to go. They just have to go out there but
probably going to watch them lose.
Michigan does have really good defense. That's the thing. Their defense is what has gotten them to these wins. They played very great. Like, they forced UC San Diego into tough situations. They did come out of the second half out of halftime and really blow things up for themselves and make a run back into the game, but it wasn't really the turnovers that got them there. It was them getting open shots that they weren't getting in the first half. And then the turnovers added to that. Michigan's going to be okay.
In a put out in a pasture kind of way? Going to be okay how? I don't know that I could buy.
I'm just being optimistic.
That part of it. That's very optimistic for you.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to pour good energy into the team. I just need them to win one more game in terms of my bracket. After that, I could care if they win or lose. Win would be good, but lose is like, all right, we made it this far. I'm happy with that.
All right. Before we go to break, who makes it further, Alabama or Michigan?
No kiss, neither.
You think they're both gone this round?
I think they're both gone in the Elite Eight.
In the Elite Eight?
Or, sorry, Sweet 16. Sorry, Sweet 16.
So you think Michigan's going to make it to the Sweet 16?
I think Michigan beats Texas A&M and loses to Auburn. I think Alabama beats Robert Morris and beats either St. Mary's or Vanderbilt and then loses to Wisconsin.
Well, I don't want Alabama to play Vanderbilt.
Hey, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what my brackets say. I'm just telling you what my bracket says.
Vanderbilt. That's bad news. I think Alabama can make it to the Sweet 16. I don't know about Michigan, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's talk Pistons on the other side. This is Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK.
Yes, dude.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike. This is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
Here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes set to Talk Detroit Pistons here in just a second, but first I want to tell you about Third Coast Move Managers. This time next week, I'll be living in Kalamazoo because Third Coast Move Managers is going to pick up my stuff from Battle Creek and move it over here, and I'm going to be very appreciative of it, and I anticipate they're going to do a great job, and they'll do a great job for you. They specialize in those small moves, apartment to apartment moving. For me, it's just me, my girlfriend, and our 2 cats. We do not have a lot of stuff, so that's the type of things that they can help with, but they really specialize in assistance with aging in place, relocation services for elderly family members who may be moving into an assisted care facility or into their own space, downsizing, preparing for real estate market preparation. All of those different types of things are more in their wheelhouse rather than the big, 4 or 5 bedroom house to another 4 or 5 bedroom house 3 counties over. That's not necessarily their thing, but those small apartment to apartment and elderly expert senior moving services, that's what they can provide. So if that's what you're looking for, check them out online, thirdcoastmove.com, or find them on Facebook. And you can also give them a call, 269-271-3650. Third Coast Move Managers, serving Southwest Michigan with expert senior moving services. All right, DJ, we've got the Detroit Pistons, who are 39-31. They have practically locked up a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. They're just a half, as we're talking, by the way, things can always change in the NBA from 1 hour to the next. And obviously the Pistons played Dallas last night. You would assume that that's probably a win, so we'll see how things might be different as you're listening. But as we are looking at the standings right now, Detroit is a half game back from Milwaukee in the 6th seed, just a game and a half back from Indiana, and just 4.5 games back from the New York Knicks, who, by the way, the Detroit Pistons share a road record with the New York Knicks. Both teams are 21-15 on the road, so it might be somewhat beneficial if the Pistons end up being a lower seed so that they have to play more road games. But nonetheless, we anticipate Detroit going to be in the playoffs. We've got less than a month left in this thing. And a couple of, I don't want to say gimmies. It's the NBA. It's professionals. Everybody gets paid. But Dallas last night, New Orleans tomorrow afternoon, San Antonio on Tuesday night. There's some opportunities here to pick up some dubs before a couple of tougher games come through with Cleveland, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Memphis, and then we're closing out with New York, with the New York Knicks, and 2 Milwaukee games that could ultimately determine seeding there in mid-April. DJ, I mean, just your take on what needs to happen over the next month for the Pistons to have all of Michigan feeling good about this playoff appearance. Obviously, everybody wants to see a playoff series win. That's harder to do than it is to talk about. But what's next for the Pistons as they look to close down the regular season?
Do not drop outside of the top 6. Seriously, that is it.
Oh my God.
That is it. You just have to make sure that you win enough games to stay inside the top 6. This city does not want to see a play in, although they would go to the game. It would be fun. All of that good jazz. They don't want that. They want to just comfortably be in the playoffs and then provide the energy to possibly pull off a first round series win and see what else can happen. But first, you have to take care of business in the regular season, which is just making sure you stay inside that top 6. From what I'm seeing on the schedule for the rest of the year, that should be doable.
Yeah, it'd be tough for them to lose 8 or 9 games because they're 5.5 games ahead of the Hawks.
Yes. And you're better than Dallas. You're better than New Orleans. You're better than a Wemby-less San Antonio. Cleveland's going to be tough. Minnesota's going to be tough. Oklahoma City's going to be tough. You're better than Toronto. I arguably think you're better than Memphis at this point. You're better than Sacramento. New York will be tough. Milwaukee will be tough twice. So as long as you actually beat Dallas, New Orleans, San Antonio, Toronto, Memphis, Sacramento, that's 6 wins out of 12. You win half of what you got left, you should be fine.
Yeah.
Just win at least half. You make the playoffs. Everybody's happy. And stay healthy. Please stay healthy. That's the other thing. Just don't go out and do stupid things. Don't go get hurt. Don't pick up unnecessary technical fouls because if you pick up because so like you get suspensions off of how many technical fouls you get. It's like a certain limit. I think it's like 15, and then you get like a 1-game suspension, and then it like adds on from there. Like if you keep getting them, so don't go picking up a technical foul now because they carry into the postseason. So it's not like it's just regular season. If you pick up, I think the first actual one is 7. Like you're on your 7th one, you get like a 1-game suspension. So if you pick up your 6th technical foul in the last game of the year, you can't pick one up in the finals or you're kicked out for a game. Like things like that are kind of things you got to be looking at this moment. Take care of your body for the next couple of weeks. Make sure you're getting recovery, you're eating well, you're sleeping, and you're just preparing for what the playoffs are going to be, which is grueling, hard-fought basketball against the same team over and over and over.
No doubt about that. They've done well when they've had to play the same team back-to-back. It hasn't happened too many times this season. And earlier on when they were losing more games, it was less so the case. But they did beat Chicago twice back-to-back during the huge winning streak that kind of solidified their playoff status, which was capped off with a win over Boston, which was significant. And then they handled Washington earlier this month before dropping a tight one. So should be, and plus you get more experience here towards the end as well because you've got New Orleans here again in just a couple of days, and then you close out with 2 games there against Milwaukee. But yeah, I agree. You absolutely cannot, if the Pistons find a way to not be a lock for the playoffs, then I don't think they're going very far because being 4.5 or 5.5 games above the Hawks and then dropping down into that territory would be really, really bad news. And especially considering that they've been on pace with Milwaukee and Indiana for a large majority of the season. So I think ultimately what you want to see is a playoff series that helps determine which of those 3 teams should be moving on rather than any situation where that's kind of taken out of their hands and they have to have a more difficult matchup than maybe what they deserve. But that said, I think it's a great thing that they're kind of coming towards the end of the season, and they've got such a strong record on the road. They're well over 500 in both their regular season record and their conference record. Points per game is on par with the other teams in the East, not named the Cleveland Cavaliers, that are in the playoffs. Now the points per game for the opposition, a little bit high, but overall, it's still on par with most of the other teams in the playoffs as well. So Detroit's going to have a shooter's chance here. You know, all I got to do is be efficient, and who knows what can happen until you get to Cleveland and Boston, because those are a little bit more talented and significant when it comes to Boston, significantly more experienced in that arena when it comes to the postseason. But nonetheless, should be an exciting April and beyond for the Detroit Pistons once we get into the postseason. That's going to do it for the regular stuff where we're covering what's going on. We're going to make our picks next here on Mitten Madness, and all coming out of March Madness. I don't anticipate we'll have another week where we pick all the same games. That's next here on the show. 95.3 WBCK. 95.3 WBCK.
Get after it.
All right, we're back here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're set to make our picks for the weekend. It's all March Madness, and it's all the games that we know about, because a lot of games have not finished between recording and airing the show. But we're going to do our best. Last week we picked all the same matchups, so standings haven't changed. But DJ, you can still let us know just how many times we've been right against just how many times we've been wrong so far.
Yes, I am still 3 games behind you. You're 20-10. I am at 17-13.
Ooh, it's a little closer to 500 than that I'm sure you'd like to be, huh?
Hey, I'm cool with it. It's a long game.
Yeah. Well, this is probably where you catch up.
It's a long game. So
I'm just saying.
I'm going to be patient and take my time here.
Yeah. I come out strong out of the gates, for basketball season, and then March Madness happens.
Hey, I tied it up last time we did basketball, so I'm cooling right now.
All right, let's get started in the East region. Round 2, exciting whites. Wisconsin and BYU are gonna go 1-on-1. It's a 1.5 point spread in favor of the Badgers, one of the many Big Ten schools in this tournament. DJ, who you got? The Badgers or the Cougs?
You said the magic words there. Big Ten.
Yeah.
I'm not buying this SEC supremacy stuff in basketball, especially because one of the two teams who cost me my bracket yesterday was an SEC team. Georgia, we got beef. But realistically, I think the top of the SEC was really good. I think there was a second bar level that was pretty decent.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the conference was not good compared to some of the other conferences, which allowed them to get some more teams in. I feel like the Big Ten deserved a lot more teams in the tournament than what they got this year. Wisconsin being a 3 seed, they shouldn't have gotten that over Michigan. But I think that they will continue to represent the Big Ten well in this game against BYU, and they will come out on top.
Yeah, I'll say this. Big Ten, SEC, supremacy. I don't know. SEC might have gotten one too many teams. But the Big Ten and the SEC, those are the creme de la creme of college basketball this year. But the Big 12 is like right there underneath them. Houston plays a huge part of that, but Big 12 plays good basketball. BYU is going to give Wisconsin a fight, but they aren't going to beat them. I'm going to take the Badgers.
That is going to send us over to another game that involves a Big Ten team. A 7-seeded UCLA Bruins, 23-10, taking on 2-seeded 28-7 Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee Volunteers, 67.6% chance to win this game. In their last 5, they have a loss to Florida in the SEC championship, or in the SEC semifinal. But other than that, they've been playing good ball. UCLA on the other side has a loss to Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament, and they have a loss to Purdue towards the end of the season. Who's going to win this game at Rupp Arena?
Yeah, just like the previous matchup, this is one that I've got locked into my bracket, so I already know who's going to win because I think Tennessee is making it to the Elite 8. I am going to say that this is one instance where SEC can show its supremacy over a team called UCLA.
I say, yeah, I feel so like dumb talking about Big Ten supremacy in the first matchup. Right. When I'm about to turn around and pick Tennessee in this matchup.
Well, hey, UCLA is still barely a Big Ten school. They got to get initiated, right?
Fair. And there's just not too many teams in this bracket that are necessarily better than Tennessee, and there aren't too many teams. Like the top of the SEC is good.
Yeah,
Auburn is a team that I would pick over a Big Ten team. Kentucky is near the top. Depending on what Big Ten team they could win. Alabama, same thing. Depending on what Big Ten team they play, they could win. They're not beating Wisconsin. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We'll talk about that at some other time.
Wisconsin's got to make it to Bama.
Which we just both picked. So I don't know what you're saying.
I'm just saying.
We just said that they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm going with Tennessee here. I think they're just slightly better.
Let's get to the next one. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, 3 seed there in the West region. They are going to play host to the Drake Bulldogs, one of the few teams to pull off an upset so far in this March Madness tournament. They took care of Missouri. Congrats to the Drake Bulldogs, a team that is usually likely to be a little bit of a surprise here in the NCAA tournament. Can they make it much further? Can they make it past what is usually a very stout defense for Texas Tech?
Look, if you got some time and energy and maybe some expendable things, if you're catching my drift here, Drake would be a fun team to follow in the Big Ten or in the NCAA tournament. I could see them mimicking that Loyola Chicago team we saw back in 2018. that went to the Final Four and lost to Michigan in that semifinal game. They could definitely be reminiscent of that team and find themselves making a run just based off of how they play and the energy they have. They're 31-3. They're not 31-3 for no reason. But I do think that their season is coming to an end against Texas Tech, even though I said all of those things. For people who have the time, the energy, the expendable things, as I mentioned, Drake could be a team that would be fun for you. But for me, I think everything's done tomorrow.
Yeah,
today, excuse me.
Out of all the underdogs who have won so far, Drake is definitely the one to keep the closest eye on.
Them or McNeese.
Yeah, I mean, McNeese is a good one, too. I just think that might be a little bit tougher of an ask.
Yes.
But that being said, Texas Tech, I always appreciate how they play basketball. Hard-nosed defense. They're just, like I said, man, the Big 12 plays good basketball. And Texas Tech, another big reason for that. I'm going to give them the dub.
That is going to take us over to another SEC team playing ball. This time not against a Big Ten team. They're playing a juggernaut from the Big East.
Yeah.
We haven't heard Big East in a while, but when you talk about basketball, college basketball, the Big East is always going to be relevant, especially when a guy like Rick Pitino is walking the sidelines in a white suit. He looks good.
White suit?
He was in a white suit the other night, looking fantastic.
Wow.
And across the court from him, on the other side of the scorer's table, this game is going to be the only legendary John Calipari, now coaching the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas only has a 28.7% chance to come out on top of the Red Storm. Will Rick Pitino keep his number 2 team winning, or will Calipari come in and shake things up?
I look at this matchup. I think that is personal. I think even for guys who may not have been on the, who are clearly not been on the roster, maybe aren't quite as intimate with the whole Rick Pitino thing. But I think Calipari's got something to prove here. So I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if he can pull it off. This is the one game where it does not matter who I pick because I had both these teams losing to Kansas. So I'm going to do, I think, the brave and bold thing here just to switch it up. I'm kidding. I'm going to take St. John's.
Yeah, I'm going to take St. John's here as well. They've played very good basketball at 31-4 on the year, and Rick Pitino has been a large part of that in the way he has coached. And I think that continues here in this game. But I do think Calipari and Arkansas will make it as close as they possibly can.
Arkansas, I can appreciate that. Michigan Wolverines. They are a 5 seed in the South region. They're going to take on the Colts. Texas A&M. A&M's got a 58% chance of handing the Wolverines a ticket back to Ann Arbor. DJ, who you got? Aggies, Wolverines?
Come on, man. You really asking me this question?
I mean, it's in the script. I have to.
It is in the script. It's written there. Hey, y'all. By the way, y'all, we have the script. We know what's going to happen in NCAA March Madness. It's right here in front of us. No, but in all actuality, I see 2 very good teams. I see a game that's going to be great. I see a game that's going to stress me out beyond all imaginable, just like the other night's game did when they were playing UC San Diego. Literally was on the edge of my chair. I literally basically levitated when Trey Donaldson hit that 3 to put Michigan in front. This game is going to have that same kind of energy. The only loss Michigan has in their last 5 is to Michigan State. Texas A&M went down to Texas and Florida. They lost to Texas in double overtime. Newsflash, Texas ain't even in the tournament, big dog.
And this is basketball. Like,
I'm going to have to rock with my dogs because they my dogs. Blues going to win. They going to the Sweet 16. We can talk later.
Okay. While I feel bad that I have to pick the Colts because I do not enjoy doing this, DJ, what is the fastest way to lose a postseason game in any sport? Turn the damn ball over too much. Guess what Michigan's going to do? I got to take the Colts.
That's fine. Do your thing.
Just trying to be rational.
When I win, you lose.
Hey, that's all part of it.
It's all part of the game.
I've still got 3 games on you. So we pick different.
Yeah. You can have that one for now. Which gets us over to our last game. Them 12 McNeese Cowboys taking on the Boilermakers from Purdue. 76.8% chance for Purdue to come out with a win in the Amica Mutual Pavilion in Providence, Rhode Island. Will the Cowboys continue to be a Cinderella, or will Purdue try and make good on that championship run they've been trying to go on for forever?
So I'll say this. I got to pick Purdue because I had them beating Clemson to advance to the Sweet 16. But that being said, I want to acknowledge McNeese. I don't know, one's in the sky, Roman Reigns style, but beating Clemson is impressive. Any 12 seed that can get up and beat a 5 seed and then prepare to go play a 4 seed, hats off to you. But I got to pick Purdue. But I would not be surprised if this goes the other way.
You're really showing that you ain't been watching no ball. Clemson, awful.
I'm not. I didn't say. Oh wow! I said respect to a 12 seed for beating a 5 seed because no matter what, that's hard.
It should be the other way around. McNeese should have been the 5 seed. Clemson's bad, bruh.
They beat them by 2 points.
Once again, Clemson's bad.
How much better is McNeese?
Clemson crawled back into that game. No, literally, they crawled. McNeese was up 25 or 30 at some point in this game. Clemson crawled back into this game. It was bad. But nonetheless,
we're aware that Jacob does not know ball.
I'm also picking Purdue to win this game.
Balls.
So we are almost the same down the line. Texas Tech, St. John's, Purdue, Wisconsin, Tennessee, both in our bag. You're going to take Texas A&M.
Don't say it so dismissively.
And I'm going to take the Michigan Wolverines. You can send us into an awesome March Madness weekend.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it. I don't like A&M. They're my least favorite team in the SEC other than Auburn. That's going to do it for us this week. We're going to sit back and enjoy March Madness. We hope you do as well. And we'll be back to continue to break down the unfoldings of that tournament and more on Mitten Madness next Saturday, 10 a.m. here on 95.3 WBCK. For Da'Jzon Hughes, I'm Jacob Harrison. Y'all take it easy.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to run it back? Stream Mitten Madness on demand on the WBCK app. Sponsored by airwaycashforjunkcars.com.